dandy. We're okay. It's our job. It's what we do. We're open for business. We got to make contracts. Municipal enforcement, so again, municipal enforcement, fire inspectors and police are also governed under the Police Services Act, which appears to be violated as a matter of course, given the circumstances herein with regard to possible and exposed misrepresentation. For example, more than one property failed fire inspections right after obtaining rental license. Municipal enforcement and others stated on numerous occasions that they considered the case closed. With respect to the work order, the law says differently. You have 10 business days from the date of this letter to register the outstanding work order with the Land Registry Office and take immediate steps to enforce and collect the fines for the work order. Failure to do so may result in further legal action to be pursued on behalf of all lawfully operating landlords and all tenants in Ontario. That's a reiteration because that was already handed to them October 30th of 2019. So we've already met that test, but we're going to give them the 10 days to do it again. You've got to try and be fair, right? These issues continue to directly interfere with and abridge basic human rights, and especially the right to security of person, while objectively and subjectively using the system improperly and unlawfully to actively misrepresent the facts, which allows this unlawful condition to exist and to continue unabated, thereby removing our protection under law and effectively making all of us to be notwithstanding, regardless of the facts. It is also contrary to the purpose of the laws and bylaws that are applicable under the law. The Ministry is currently in direct violation of its own stated mandate, in violation of the law and their own bylaws. They are not maintaining the standards of the building code, which places the public at severe risk of harm and unnecessary financial hardship and loss. It is 686 days since July 15, 2019, that was to be the date of completion under current outstanding work order for which there is uncollected fines and fees to be properly assessed and collected on behalf of all taxpayers and all law-abiding citizens/tenants. This does not include uncollected permits, filing fees, 2 prior years of rental license violations of 4 properties, and possible other fines. And he is a certified real estate agent who is required to be in compliance with the law as part of a professional standards of conduct for the profession. And there may be a pending business venture the other parties are tied with regard to future development of these properties, of which there may be a shared vested interest with the City of Waterloo and the Region of Waterloo and or the Province of Ontario. Hence, they're not given the public record. The total amount of unlawful rent collected to date at 108 Marshall Street is $28,800 and resulted in an unlawful eviction and termination of a valid, legally binding lease and tenancy. That's as far as we know. That's we go. They've now rented it out again when it's not even to code. The work order has not been done, and we don't know what they're charging rent there, but we hear it's tripled. Either way, if that is deemed to be unlawful, every penny of rent that they paid is to be repaid too as unlawful rent. Because it's the same claim. The fact that you sloughed it over and got somebody else in there to make it look good. Hey, it looks good on paper, right? So does the law, doesn't it? The law looks really good on paper. Anyway. The total amount of unlawful rent paid to date at 98B Marshall Street is $44,400. Of unlawful rent collected to date, including May 2021, paid in good faith on an unlawful order if property is in fact misrepresented. The amount of unpaid rent claimed against lawful tenant is less than $12,000 because they refuse to collect unlawful rent and or bring into compliance. Note, see attached copy of notice sent by email to Ben Burley, ben@atlasproperty.com, plus 3 more, which is Commissions Worldwide Inc., Outlook.com, Koenig Holdings, Atlas Property Group, 2 pages, dated July 7, 2020, sent at 2:28, demanding proof of license. This is the reason why they closed down. So we sent to Atlas Property Group a 2-page dated July 7th, 2020, at 2:28, demanding proof of license within 30 days after Mark Koenig was made to hang the license in the rental against the bylaw to not post right on the license. That video is online in the series. So it says right on the license, it's illegal not to post this in the rental. And here we are, he's coming in June posting it. So the minute I confirm, because again, they wouldn't tell us whether it was licensed. They just keep us in the dark, just like everybody else. We'll get back to you, right? Notwithstanding. Then they do what they want anyways. And, oh, well, sorry. Anyway. So we sent it to him, demanding proof of license within 30 days after he was made to hang the license. And they still not, so they were still not in compliance in June, because in order to be compliant, the license must be hanging up. So it was supposed to be there since March 31st. And the one from the year before was supposed to be hanging up until March 31st. That's what it says, right on the license. And they don't even make sure it's hanging up themselves. They don't even go and hang it up. Because, hey, it's all looks good on paper, right? Not really, not if you pay attention. Go look at the records. They're in the description part. All links, all documented evidence is attached in the description part of these videos. You need to be informed. And all we're doing is we're presenting the information. Make up your own mind. It's there for you to decide for yourself. This is our opinion. So, Atlas Property Group Waterloo, Inc. is permanently closed since December 2020. I also attached a copy of the latest notice sent to the other parties, for example, Commissions Worldwide, Inc., Atlas Property Group Waterloo, and Koenig Holdings, Inc., through their representative Lisa Nadon of Small Matters Paralegal Service, dated May 7, 2021. 3 pages and proof of payment, May 2021. Whether by error, on purpose, or by omission, the situation exists and is responsible for grievous harm and acts of continued unlawfulness, including but not limited to the removal of human rights, civil and other rights, and is wholly responsible for this continuing harm and must cease and desist immediately. We feel there is also a question of possible tax avoidance, real estate, and or banking fraud that need to be examined. This is legal notice that we are preserving the rights of the estate of John Lichty, co-tenant leaseholder of 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, with regard to this matter, who is also a part of these ongoing matters and these events may have contributed to his death on July 18, 2019. I will be posting the coroner tape. You need to hear it, because this is the same municipal people who are running this show. And you're about to find out, because I posted the video on YouTube, and 2 days later, David Williams announced his resignation. You also need to know that there's been other heads rolling in this already, so we have no teeth. There's nothing to this at all. Look at how hard they're trying to stop it. More on that in a bit. It's in the letter. We are seeking a full criminal investigation and request the review by judge under Section 274, Subsection 1A and B of the Ontario Municipal Act, and also an inquiry by Commissioner under Section 223.4 of the Ontario Municipal Act to review the events connected to these properties and abuses of power and authority, and have corrections made to prevent these types of unlawful practices and abuses of the system, especially with regard to the legal representation of the tribunal system and partnership of willing partners that appear to be enabling this abandonment of responsibility and supports an apparent lack of accountability at the core of the current system. So I have sent this directly to Mr. Rieger. Rod Rieger, Commissioner, Planning of Development and Legislative at the region. And we are asking for review by judge on behalf of all taxpayers. So, Mr. Commissioner, you are required to do something about this immediately. Well, we ask you to. Whether or not you do, I guess that depends on how big the lawsuit is when we're done, right? Because if you don't, you're already proven to be, well, this process is proven to be suspect. But I'm sure you make it look good on paper. All persons I have been chosen to represent described as tenant of both 100A Marshall Street, currently occupants at 98B Marshall by permission of leaseholder, and 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, is disabled, including Austin Mills, who has autism. So this is an official request under Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, AOTA, and other human rights laws. This request is for all contact from all parties. There is a prevalence of recurring PTSD due to the psychological stressors experienced throughout these continual and unrelenting acts of what can only be accurately described as dismissal and abuse. Regardless of what legal rights you feel are in play here, there is no justification for any of these ongoing assaults and being held hostage to the whims of a self-entitled system of willing partners. What is your definition of reasonable enjoyment, cruel and unusual punishment, punitive action, deterrence, justice and truth, responsibility, leadership, or accountability? The request for a proper and full building code inspection for 98B Marshall Street and 100A Marshall Street are self-explanatory, but the other two properties which were not licensed between 2017 and 2019, for example 98A Marshall and 100B Marshall Street, prior to the work order at 100A, should also be fully inspected, as well as any other properties the ministry feels appropriate, given the owner-landlord property management apparently misrepresented and gave false information in all rental applications applied for on Marshall Street with regard to these four properties. The City of Waterloo Public Records also shows the problematic history of enforcement connected to these properties, and many issues were evident long before Mr. Papadopoulos acquired them in 2017, and of which the City of Waterloo was properly notified of the notice of sale for these properties when purchased, as required by law by Mr. Papadopoulos. Especially with particular 98B has an extremely long history in the public record, hence why they waited till October to give the 2019 license. But that's what the judge and the commissioner are going to find out, I guess, for us, right? The City of Waterloo Municipal Enforcement Division incorrectly assessed the penalties which should have lawfully been levied against the owner. For example, did not violate the property under the rental license bylaw itself or under the fencing bylaw, which, as the legislation states, if you are in violation of one applicable bylaw, the violations are concurrent, which means they are all infringed upon, which again supports a full review given the alleged seriousness in abuse of process and of law. These persons, if found negligent or complicit, have no doubt must have contravened a code of conduct, which should also result in their immediate termination given the obvious breach of public trust and continued protection of the public good and law enforcement in general. No one is allowed to act unlawfully, and judicial privilege and immunity is only valid if acting lawfully and in good faith, not as blanket protection for whatever you decide. We ask that you look at the complete failure of the human rights system and Tribunals Ontario and the Crown and Right of Canada and the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Attorney General, Ministry of Finance, and the new Minister of Disabilities. We are also seeking immediate intervention to correct this unlawful situation and an investigation into possible criminal conduct. We are seeking a full review of the tribunal and subsequent system used to defend tenant rights in Ontario, such as the legal aid system and regional community legal clinics and Landlord-Tenant Board of Ontario, which appears to have acted unlawfully when terminating the tenancy of 100A Marshall Street and is continuing to act unlawfully and cause others to act unlawfully, which undermines the law they claim to protect and preserve. We ask the Law Society, Solicitor and Attorney Generals of Ontario, and Osgood Hall, Lawyers Associations, etc., to immediately review their processes and protocols and policies with regard to how persons in the legal profession are choosing to practice, especially with regard to paralegals. There must be better training and accountability with regard to persons with disabilities. Hint, it's more about what happens once you've crossed the physical barriers, automatic doors, escalators, and disabled washrooms. You have to remember they invited me to the courthouse under the guise of helping me as a person with a disability before they assaulted me at 120 seconds and then threw me into the system as their victim. Also, at the end of one, the tape is available at the end of one of the videos that I did, the actual tape of the assault, where you can see how they did it, how much of a threat I was. He was leading on, he's leading on like this, going, oh yeah, he's totally relaxed while everybody's getting in position to nail me when I'm sitting there going, I'm just here to see a disability coordinator. Go look at it. More importantly, 19 or 20 of them went running out the door for me. I thought there was only 6. Reports say up to 9. And the reports. Yeah, what's the difference between Uyghurs in China, disabled in Canada, residential school kids in Canada, or anywhere in Commonwealth? You want to talk about McDonald doing that? It's the Crown he was doing it for. The Crown is still the ones doing it today. The Crown and Right of Canada. Do you get that? It's their privilege. It's their God-given right. Due to issues with disability, work commitments of tenant, continued harassment and assault, provocation of PTSD, and continued perceived harm, all contact is to be not less than 24 hours notice and to be in writing. Date and estimated time, purpose of being there, identify who they represent, for example, company contact owner, what areas they intend to do work. They may be recorded on video and or audio during points of contact and while on the property as security against false accusation. The reason for which is that, well, the reason why we're asking for this is because, all of it, is because Miss Mills and her son do not like to be present and would like the option to be elsewhere due to the previous behaviors allowed to be perpetrated by Mr. Koenig and others, which leads to further anxiety, including being afraid to leave the house. Austin has autism and needs a secure and stable environment, and we all have PTSD, especially given the level of abuse the authorities have represented and asserted, regardless of our pursuit of appropriate assistance at all levels of access. All contact is to be minimized where possible and be completed as soon as possible and well coordinated, as we have literally had enough. All COVID-19 restrictions are to be observed and cooperation is expected. Mark Koenig of Koenig Holdings is not to attend the property unannounced or unaccompanied and is to stay no less than 100 feet of Cary Mills and or Austin Mills. We invite you to participate in a full, now this is the important thing, they're having a hearing, they got it slated for June 11th, acting on the fact that all this information is here. We've got more than enough evidence saying that there's no right for them to do any of this, which is why they're shutting us down, making sure it doesn't get into the public record, including manipulating the system to cater to this landlord. And what they did, backdating to October, because they did the thing October 15th. The letter I wrote them was October 30th, which clearly said where they were to communicate and what the problem was. They had a hearing November 4th under Atlas Property Group, which they canceled because Atlas Property Group closed down because of the letter I sent them. All of which these people are aware of. Every last one of them. Working together in collusion. So, what we decided, you know, I'm going to human rights. We're just taking the information, using it against us. They're doing what they need to make it look good on paper so that we're the criminal and they're justified. So there's only one thing we can do. The whole point is they are claiming that this property is to code and standard. Right here, right now. If I was to take this camera right around this house right now, it's supposed to be the code and standard. That's what they're claiming. Matter of fact, to the point where they have got another unlawful order, $44,400 in unlawful rent paid to date. We had the checks for the ones they're claiming of $12,000 of unpaid rent, which was sitting here waiting for them to pick it up. Because to collect the rent is unlawful, which means by them telling us to go ahead and pay the rent, we're breaking the law. They're telling us to break the law. They're encouraging us to be unlawful. I'm sorry, you want to act unlawfully, you go right ahead. I follow the law. When required. Especially when it's supposed to protect me. So anyway, we invite you to participate in a full inspection of 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2 Jack, 2 Terrence 4 on Wednesday, June 9th at 9 a.m. as a prearranged opportunity to enable the tenant parties that do not wish to be present to be elsewhere and to remove the dog and accommodate Carrie having to work nights. Denise Duval of the Marshall Street Tenant Association will be available to facilitate access and document on behalf of the association tenant those who attend based on COVID protocols as Ms. Mills' representative. The purpose is to cooperate and not to impede or hinder while protecting Carrie's rights and legal interests as tenant legal leaseholder. Also attached, as the tenant legal leaseholder, Kerry Mills has provided a written copy of a request for a full inspection of 98B Marshall Street. In the meantime, you have full authority to request any record or document from the applicants. And given that the work order is under section 438, it states that, quote, no person shall neglect or refuse to produce any information or thing where person includes the investigators and persons duty under law in all corporations, including the city or region and city of Waterloo or province of Ontario. There is the public record history of 98B Marshall Street. You can demand all maintenance records, incoming and outgoing inspection reports, banking and insurance records, loans and or taxes, and fines improperly assessed regarding the outstanding work order. So you have more than enough to get started on. And hey, why don't you get there? I mean, Atlas Property Group is a professional corporation, $8 to $10 million, that are responsible. We're responsible for multiple properties in this city and region. One letter saying proof of the license, and they closed permanently, and there's no issue here. Mark Koenig is still around operating as Koenig Holdings, though, because he wrote letters as a CFO of Atlas Property Group to all those people that Atlas was screwing around. Now they're managed by Koenig, maybe? Is that why we need the police to look at this? Oh, wait, but they're cooperating. The police are in on it, right? We can't even go and complain about harassment and assault because we're prisoner. Good system you got here, right? We hope that you help support us in this endeavor, as it would go a long way to identify the problem areas and to have lawful rental units instead of exploited ones, and would save the taxpayer money while collecting more revenue lawfully through actual enforcement. One way or another, the true lawful standing of the property known as 98B Marshall Street will be ascertained and documented for the public good on Wednesday, June 9, 2021, even if you decide not to provide an inspection, as we would then be forced to go live on YouTube. Your choice. So we are announcing here right now that Wednesday, June 9th, if they do not do an inspection at any point of this property, Wednesday by June 9th, we will be doing a live feed on YouTube of the actual state of this lawful standing of this building as of that date and that time. We will be showing the violations directly, because this record needs to be clarified. And I am not standing for what you are. I stand right here. This is where I stand. You treated us notwithstanding? Screw you. I'll show you how much standing I got. And you want to know how much standing we got? Okay. Here we go. So we have no merit. They keep saying that we're the problem. Okay. Well, what we already know. Shane Turter, Shamir Mehta, Steve Ross are no longer holding their positions in municipal enforcement. Steve Ross, a solicitor for the City of Waterloo, was fired or did not have his contract renewed with the City of Waterloo. Now, I've since been told that Shane might still be there. Doesn't matter, but hey, Shane, you're going to be gone. It's a criminal act you did. And you are not protected by judicial immunity when you're acting in bad faith and against the law. But then we're about to test that, aren't we? Allison Hensall is still there, but should start looking for another job, as should anyone else connected to this. Yes, that means you too, Tim Anderson, Mayor Jaworski, Karen Redmond, the ones who have been informed of this since the beginning. Good luck getting reelected. Even Mike Murray at the region. He was the CAO of the region. After a 28-year career with the region, the last 16 years as the CAO, was made to leave in June 2020. That was right after I notified the finance ministry. All of a sudden these people are not renewed and they're getting cleared house, eh? So that's why Mr. Faulkner came in there, because again, Mike Murray is, I guess he's consulting now? Quick removal, eh? Didn't renew the contract, or you weren't fired? It probably looked good on paper, right? You got your severance too, because again, any of these people that were left from their jobs that are getting severance need to have it severed if they acted criminally. No person is allowed to benefit from crime, right? Proceeds of crime. A lot of things we could test. The law looks good on paper, though. So, again, Mike Murray at the Region, after a 28-year career, the last 16 years as the CEO, was made to leave in June 2020. Atlas Property Group Waterloo is apparently permanently closed, and there is potentially over $2 million plus in unpaid fines, fees, and taxes based on the current outstanding work order on 2 separate properties due to the fact the fence number 19 on the provincial work order and counting. That's our fence. But hey, come do an inspection. You can tell us, right? This is the second time since 2012 our parties have been directly affected by the rental license collusion to undermine the law, and it may also be attributed to the wrongful death of John Lichty of 98B Marshall Street in July 2019 due to the wrongful and unlawful actions of the owner, landlord, and various property management, city and municipal staff, for example, inspectors, documented. Malfeasance and misfeasance at all levels, including Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, tribunals in Ontario, including Human Rights, and Landlord-Tenant Board being directly implicated in collusion, documented. Aiding and abetting unlawful acts against duty under law in bad faith. 98% of landlords are responsible. It's just the few that are apparently allowed to continue to operate freely in spite of the law that are the problem, besides the system of willing partners that appear to support them, especially when blocking legitimate provincial work order from land registry. You can, and again, blocking the provincial work order. When a work order is outstanding, you have the right to go to the land registry office, and it says right on it, as part of the legislation, if this is not completed by the date, any person can bring it down to the land registry office and have it registered as a lien. Because the law is supposed to register as a lien. That is supposed to be collected as fines and taxes, which is why I informed the finance minister. Wait till you hear the phone call. All I do is cover all the bases. You know, I may have a brain injury, but I'm not stupid, and I've learned a lot over the last 18 years of dealing with this entity, this fraud called Canada. You can change, or you can start to change, turning negative to a positive or not. We hope for proactive and cooperative. We require a written response. We patiently wait for these patients to be brought into lawful compliance and to do away with this obvious and seemingly deliberate absence of accountability within the government Crown's domain. There is a Landlord-Tenant Board hearing set to convene on June 11, 2021 with regard to this unlawful rental, and tenant is facing eviction for misrepresented claim for unpaid rent for which there may be further unnecessary harm which is easily avoidable. The city, region, province, and landlord, owner, and property management all represent and affirm that this property at 98B Marshall Street is in compliance with the bylaws of the City of Waterloo and the Region of Waterloo in the province of Ontario and is lawfully licensed, and the landlord and owner of property management have all completed multiple applications and other documents attesting to their compliance with the Municipal Act and all bylaws, including filing multiple petitions before the Landlord-Tenant Board attesting to the lawfulness and compliance as stated, signed, submitted, and accepted to. All a matter of public record. We say there is more than enough proof to say you must inspect these properties and prove the validity of these rental licenses and properties before a proper and just decision can or should be made. We also request access to public records of both the City of Waterloo and Region of Waterloo and ask again for assistance to persons with disabilities under AOTA and other human rights laws. We have been put through enough already. We also ask that any and all fees for same be waived due to the extreme hardship and the interest in the public good. Sincerely, without reservation, Christopher Bacon, Director, Marshall Street Tenant Association, and on behalf of Kerry Mills Tenant, 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario. All parties in the property notified. There's the signatures. I have a list of attachments and links to the actual evidence. Again, all of which was presented, a lot of this was cut and paste from something I had already, from the October 30th notice, 2019, which they received. and God. So list of attachments. Copy of a statement from Kerry Mills, tenant. Copy of statement from Kerry Mills, tenant, legal leaseholder, member of Marshall Street Tenant Associate, MSTA, requesting full inspection, 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2 Jack, 2 Terrence 4, for proof of validity of residential rental license 2020 is not misrepresented, is lawful. So, this is that. Just to cover the bases, because again, the law says that all that's required for this to happen is that any tenant suspects that there's a problem, they call up and they say, hey, I need you to come and tell me if there's a problem. And they're supposed to come and inspect. That is all that's required. No hoops, no other thing. That's all that they say is required under law in order to have a proper inspection. And they're here to keep people safe and uphold the law, right? That's what they tell you. Looks good on paper. So copy of statement for Kerry Mills, legal leaseholder, tenant, 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2 Jack. And we read this aloud. This is on the video. So this is what you're hearing her say at the beginning, on the video when we post that. So it was created May 27, 2021 in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. She states, hi, my name is Kerry Mills, tenant, leaseholder of 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo. Today's date is May 27, 21 at about 3 p.m. I am asking the City of Waterloo to perform a full property inspection at this rental. The landlord and management has misrepresented the current legal standing of this rental license and are in violation of the license. They continue to misrepresent the rental unit before the Landlord-Tenant Board, causing harm and risk of eviction. We ask that an inspection be immediately done to prove the validity of this license and confirm the property is compliant. And the statement. Then on this one it says, I, Kerry Mills, agree that this is an accurate representation of the statement I made on video from my residence on May 27, 2021 at 3 p.m. This is a statement of the facts as I know them, and I give this statement on my free will and ask for your urgent response. I further wish to confirm that Christopher Bacon, Director, Marshall Street Tenant Association, MSTA, of which I am also an active member, has full authority to assist me to represent my legal interests, and as such, due to the continued harassment and harm and interference with the proper exercising the lawful terms of my current lease, which is causing more harm and unnecessary hardship, is the only point of contact with regard to these matters. The fact that you have the fact that you have many tools at your disposal to investigate and request any document, as well as the power to fully inspect this property, especially given the many proven inconsistencies and direct misrepresentations of fact in the information provided in the multiple rental license applications contained in your own public record, as well as before other authority and regulatory bodies, and obvious infractions that both Theo Papadopoulos of Commissions Worldwide, Inc., and Mark Koenig of Atlas Property Group Waterloo, now permanently closed since December 2020, and Koenig Holdings, Inc., have been allowed to continue to misrepresent and harass, interfere and annoy by this obvious continued negligence needs to end now. I ask that the City of Waterloo, Region of Waterloo, and Province of Ontario to prove the current legal standing of this residential licensing permit issued by Shane Turner, Director of Municipal Enforcement, and his team by performing your minimum required due diligence and duty under law to inspect these premises and all accompanying documentation from the owner and management for residential rental license permit number 2020005445, Class A 4-bedroom, issued March 26, 2020, expiring on August 31st, 2021, attested to by owner 2576514 Ontario, Inc., 455 Old Oak Road Drive, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2 Terrace at 2 Victor 8, and by Atlas Property Group, Inc., 1 King Street North, Floor 3, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2 Jack, 2W6, to confirm they are operating as lawful rental licensed by business as required by law. Thank you. Signed on this, dated signed on this the 1st of June 2020. Kerry Mills, tenant leaseholder, member of MSTA. That should be more than enough to be able to get them in here to do an inspection. By law. I'm also posting a copy of the work order. The outstanding work order. I'll just say, where's that page? Almost. Okay, so 2 is copy of outstanding and incomplete municipal work order dated June 13, 2019, completion date by July 15, 2019. 686 days between July 15th and May 31st, 5 pages. So this is it, 5 pages. This is the work order. And it shows it was